Welcome back. This is going to be World Building 101 from a I don't know what I'm doing here kind of writer. So, world building. Obviously, if you are writing in a more contemporary setting, a setting either is in our world or adjacent to our world, this is a lot easier because you can just say Halloween and Christmas, and you can say McDonald's, and you can say very normal earthly things. But if you are writing a fantasy book where you are building your own world, oh boy, there's a lot of work there. So I'm gonna say maybe start with a map. World building is really challenging. This is the part that I've been learning slowly over my time writing my book and piecing those puzzle pieces together. World building is a lot. It is a challenge. There's so many unanswered questions and very few places that I know where to start. And I simply started with a map. I decided that I kind of just wanted to draw a map, and I went into it with very few ideas. I said, I want to make a map. I want to have this specific location, and I want this specific location. And then I kind of just let the rest just randomly flow through me. And it was so much fun. I genuinely had a blast. You don't have to be super creative or talented to make a map. What I personally did was I just took a bunch of dice and I just went and I just dropped them at random on a piece of paper, or my iPad in this case, and outlined. A lot of people do this with rice if you want to get like more specific. That also works. I just didn't want that mess. And then you just outline the shape, and then there you go. You've got a simple map. And from here you can design however you want, whatever is going to be easiest for you. I've found that there's, I don't know who makes them, but there's a whole bunch of these things to include in your blank map. Sci-fi map, steampunk map, pirate map, world map, fantasy map, blah blah blah. And I just went through and found some of the few things that I was like, yep, I want this, I want this, I want this. So I was like, yeah, I would love portals. A mushroom world, that sounds so cool. Floating islands, that sounds so cool. And just slowly taking those fun little ideas that truly have no purpose to my story, and I just made a map. I just made a cute little map that I think is really pretty. And from there, I've been able to add on to the world. So I've got two main locations at this current point for my book, and I was able to go, great. So here's an idea for this kingdom. What do I want their life to be? And they're very natural. They've got a nice little farm. They've got really tall kingdom walls. Most people never leave. It's very secluded. You've got the like lower class of town, and you've got the upper class where like the royals and the nobles live, and there's guards. There's a church that is incredibly prominent. There's definitely gods in my world, and I've just been able to build and build and build around that. And sometimes I will go and find like questions to ask when constructing a currency, or questions to ask yourself about a magic system, how to get to know the world that you are building in. Finding resources are so helpful. There are tools and people out there who have had the same thoughts and have gone through the same thing, and let them help guide you. You do not have to create everything entirely on your own. If you love Lord of the Rings, you can just take that world and make it your own, because you're writing for you. And if you can write Lord of the Rings fanfic and it is still writing, and if you get published, you just change some stuff up. It's okay to do that. It is okay to use inspiration from other people. It is okay to use other people's creativity to help aid yours, because being creative is really hard, especially like in your day-to-day. Like, I'm a bookkeeper and a tax preparer. No, I don't normally just think about floating islands and little mushroom lands. But I can do that. I can have somebody suggest that idea and I can run with it. I will take the help where I can get it. Best resource in the entire world, I didn't mention this in my last video, I'm so sorry. Fantasy name generator. Holy cow, that website is absolutely incredible. The best hands down resource you could use. It is so good. You can get human names, you can get different species names, you can get names for your world, you can get names for your buildings. Like, if you are struggling and you hit a wall, the internet is your oyster. There are people everywhere who are happily going to help you. What holidays are set in your world? What traditions do you have? What little things can make your world different from somebody else's? One of my favorite writing tips is that you do not need to write from experience. Obviously, do not write other people's experience. Do not be a white person writing a black person's experience. Don't be a cis person writing a trans person experience, because that's not your story to tell. But you don't have to write, like, I have never lived under a monarchy, but I am writing it as if I have. I have a complete system of royalty that I am just figuring out as I go. I obviously only have a very American experience, but if I want to write a book that is more set in, like, Scotland, I can do that. The internet exists, so I can find enough resources, and I don't have to write from that experience. That's such a big deal. It's so big. Is your world religious? What are some traditions set in your different providences? Treating your world similar, akin to ours, in this fact that, like, cultures mix and mesh. Things move around. Something that is an American culture thing will still potentially be taken to another country and done somewhere else. Like, Christmas is a rather universal experience. Those kinds of things can exist in your world, but twisted to be your own. You don't want Christmas in your world because Christianity doesn't exist and Judaism doesn't exist? Cool. Winterfest. Easy. It can exist, it can have similar traditions, it can have different traditions, but you can make it however you need it to be. If you are a part of a specific religion, you can take all of those aspects and still put it in your fantasy world and just give it a slightly different name, but it can still be rather similar. If you are building a world completely from scratch, you're gonna want to slowly start figuring out, what is the currency like? What is the government like? What is the poverty or classism? If any of those things exist, were there wars? Are there wars? Are there feuding countries? Are there feuding guilds? Are there secret governments that nobody really knows about that you want to explore? What kind of humor do different people or cultures have in your world? What's the mannerisms like for them? Like, how are they different, and how can you explore that? If your book only takes place in one city, you can show different cultures in that one place. They don't all have to be the same. You don't want it to just look the same everywhere you look. You want there to be diversity. There are different countries, but you don't ever see them. Have those influences come into your setting to show your perspective and, like, to show more of the world, to make there be more questions. Finding a magic system that's going to work best for you. Have rules and laws. What can you do? What can't you do? Why? How is it learned? Slowly ask yourself these kinds of questions and piece it together. Again, it is okay if you don't know everything. Something that I think is really fun when building out a world is create memes that are set in your world. They're not going to make sense to other people. They're not going to be funny to other people. But, like, what would different people in your country, in your world, in your setting, what would your main character find funny? Like, what memes would, like, be relatable and, like, bring that different humor and normalcy into your world? This graph here, I think, is a really good starting point. I haven't even gone through and, like, fully dived into each of these, but I think it's a great starting point to kind of see where you might want to dive into and start. So I've gotten the, like, geography stuff pretty well done. I've gotten a good amount of like the population figured out, but there's still so many unanswered questions because my characters aren't going to go to most of my world, so I don't have to explore all of it. But the places that they're going to explore, I'm going to want to think out. And if there's a place that I personally want to go to, I'd figure out a reason why they're going there. I floated around the idea of Mushroom Land. There's a little town full of glowing mushrooms and like fairies that live in the mushroom. How can I get my characters there? Because I think that's going to be a pretty place. But giving your world background and depth is going to help along the way. My like population, a lot of people know a lot more than what my main characters are going to know, and it's going to be very interesting having them discover more about this world that they didn't know about, and them having to open their eyes to so many new truths and just have them completely baffled for quite some time. That's fun to explore, and I cannot wait to do it. But graphs like this are going to definitely help me figure out what kind of history I need to tell and like what it is I need to know of the history and what lies and rumors there are. One of my favorite things is character rumors. I should have said this in characters. We're here anyway. But like 5 rumors that people may or may not know about my characters. Some of them are true, some of them are complete lies. What are they? Little things like that to explore just add elements to my story. And I'm so excited to explore these little paths and avenues. But I highly suggest start with a map, start with a magic system, start with politics. Maybe religion if you have that. Those are like your pillars that are going to really like build out a world. Ooh, one of my favorite things, this is so much just for me. One of my favorite things, I have vending machines right now for when my main characters go to the city. And so there's like an energy drinks vending machine, oops, and then there's like a snacks one, and they all have like different magical properties that I'm so excited to explore. But I don't know when they're gonna find this, but this is so extra. This is like very much a me thing. And I'm learning as I'm explaining my process of writing my book. It's just, I like to do fun side quests before I basically am procrastinating writing the actual thing by doing fun little things like a vending machine and what each drink magical property is. But I love that stuff. It's so much fun. So yeah, this is basically me just being a nerd about how I'm figuring my books out. So fun. Basically, by the end of these 3 videos, you should know way too much about your world and your characters, and you should have a very clear idea of the atmosphere in which you are writing. Will you explore a lot of these realms? Probably not, honestly. You're probably not going to touch a lot of it, but having that there is going to open doors whilst you're writing. The amount of times that I've outlined a book and have gone off the rails, added things, don't be afraid to make this as short or as long as you possibly want. If you really, really, really want to see your characters in a very specific setting, write it. Even if it doesn't make it in, or you can't figure out how to piece it in, just write it for yourself. Leave it off to the side. Forget about it for a little bit. Figure it out later if you need to, but indulge in what you want to write and what you want to see, and let the rest just kind of do what it is. Once you start getting in the process of writing, more and more avenues will show themselves, and you're just gonna learn a lot. So that's kind of how I've been world building my own very unique and standalone world that I've never been to, and how I've kind of been going about it. Next, we're going to talk about my least favorite part, which is the plotting, which I've still not done. So that's going to be fun. I think we'll do all right. We'll see how it goes. But I'll see you then next Saturday for how to plot and structure your book. See you there.